How does banning in ranked Smite work? What's going on, everybody? So I'm going to preface this video by saying that I'm a little surprised that this video hasn't already been made, or at least easily findable, due to how unintuitive banning in this game works. Like, when I look up Smite ranked bans guide on YouTube, this is what shows up. Or if I look up how does Smite ranked bans work, for example, the closest thing that pops up is Intersect's video on how ranked borders work. So if you were like me, not even that long ago, where I started out playing ranked and was confused on who received bans first, or how it's oriented based on different game modes, for example, then this should be the video for you. So generally speaking, this video should sum up how it works, some general tips on what you should be thinking when banning, and a couple normal ban examples. Let's hop into it. So starting off, there are currently only 3 ranked game modes where you can actually ban, outside of Mode of the Day or some game event. That is Ranked Conquest, Joust, and Duel. Let's go over the most simple game mode for banning, which is Duel. So in Duel, you are given 6 bans, and your opponent is also given 6 bans. So in total, you both are collectively banning 12 gods. Now the person who has higher MMR will always get to pick first, which is pretty pivotal and can dictate god usage, but in Duel, this doesn't really apply due to it being a 1v1, where you both select gods at the same time. Now you can ban gods you don't like going up against, that's totally up to you, but you have to think about 1v1 potential instead of the team-based applicability that you're used to seeing them in. For example, you may hate going up against an Atlas because of how oppressive a god he is. However, in Duel he's not very good, as well as him being a very unlikely pick, so banning him would be a waste of a ban. So whenever I'm playing Duel, the 2 classes that I focus my bans on are Assassins and Hunters, although there are a few gods from Mage and Warrior categories that I like to ban too. So some example gods that I ban because I hate going up against them, starting with Hunters, are Anhur, Amuz-and-Kab, Hoi-Yi, Skadi, and Uller. And if you aren't aware of this, Hunters, or more generally auto-attack gods, are pretty overpowered in Duel. So this is one of the main reasons why Hunters are usually banned. Moving on to Assassins, we have Bakasura, Kali, and Set as top priority bans. And now for every other god class, I think banning Bellona, Vamana, Kronos, Freya, Hades, and Oleron are really good bans as well. And as you can see, most of these bans, if you were to look at all of them, are auto-attack heavy. Now moving on to probably the most second simplistic game mode, in terms of banning, we have Ranked Conquest. Now Hi-Rez pretty recently changed how the ban system operates, I believe towards the end of Season 8. Where before, each person from each team with the highest MMR would ban 5 gods, which meant it was all up to one person to ban, and without getting too deep into it, it was a lot more complicated with the stratified picking system, very similar to Ranked Joust, which we will get into very shortly. However, now everyone from both teams gets to pick one god they want to ban, making it more representative than it used to be. Additionally, with bans not being revealed by your opponents until everyone in the lobby has locked in a ban, duplicate bans can occur. Moving on, the top 2 people with the highest MMR get the top 2 spots, while the other 3 are randomly placed, and based on what role you want, the 2 top people get priority. For instance, if you get one of the first 2 spots, and your roles are jungle and mid for example, while someone else on your team has the same role as you, but are one of the 3 bottom spots, you will get priority for the role. Also, before everyone gets to lock in a god that they're going to ban, you can pick gods that you want to ban, or want to pick, in order to communicate to your team what you want to do right before you get to lock in bans. This system helps people understand what god you want to go in case they were going to ban it. Now the mindset behind what makes a good ban in Conquest varies a lot more than Duel and Joust for the most part, seeing as this is one of the main game modes that Hi-Rez takes data from to decide which gods and items deserve buffs and nerfs. So with that in mind, I would suggest banning gods that have a lot more team utility or hard carry potential. Some example bans currently, in the beginning of Season 10 at least, starting with Guardians, are Atlas and Maui, as these are extremely good supports. Outside of that, most of all supports probably don't warrant a ban. Moving on to Warriors, we don't have a lot to choose from, seeing as most Warriors are in a pretty good place. But a pretty good ban would be Vamana and maybe Horus. Warriors are in a pretty good spot at the moment, but outside of those 2, there aren't too many oppressive warriors in Ranked Conquest. Moving into Hunters, banning Ishtar, Kronos, and Uller are good as they are probably the best Hunters right now. Going into Mages, banning Freya, Sol, and Ao Kuang are good as these gods are really good, but specifically Ao Kuang is one of the most broken gods in Conquest. And finally, Assassins, banning Fenrir, Kali, and Thanatos are important due to these gods being broken as well. Now the gods that I would give priority ban to would be Ao Kuang, Kali, Atlas, Thanatos, and Ishtar, but overall, any of these gods are pretty solid bans. Finally, moving into Joust, which is probably the most complex banning system, each team gets 5 bans, where the player with the highest MMR from each team gets to have authority over all 5 bans. In Joust, each player's MMR is based in a sequential manner, where the highest MMR is at the top, the second highest is in the middle, and the lowest is at the bottom. Now what makes Joust's banning system pretty unique is its stratified approach, where the banning system is split up into 2 sections. So, starting off, the player who gets to pick bans first will always be the player who gets to pick their god first. This is one of the most important details in Joust, seeing as you can strategize based on your team's first pick. For example, you could leave open a ban allowing you to get first dibs on an overpowered god, allowing you to have a leg up against the other team. So making sure you understand this is pretty crucial. Continuing on though, Joust is based on an alternating banning system, where each team goes back and forth on selecting gods to ban, very similar to how Duel works. And then once each team has selected 3 gods to ban, the person with the highest MMR gets to have first pick. Following that, the other 2 teams allows the first 2 players to pick their gods. And finally going back to the other team, the second player gets to pick their god, which closes the first banning section. Then after that, the team who received first pick gets to ban first, and then alternate until each team has reached all 5 bans. And then lastly, the team who had second pick gets to pick their last god first, and then the other team gets to pick theirs after. Which ends the second section of the banning phase and the banning in total. It's a very convoluted system that is confusing, but I hope that explanation helped a little bit, as I struggled to find videos that explicitly went over this. And hopefully I'm not speaking too fast to where you have to constantly keep going back and forth, but hopefully that made sense. Now in terms of the overall mentality when banning, understanding that tank/bruisers are really strong in Joust should dictate a lot of the gods you ban first. Additionally, after the first section of banning is completed, you can now see 2 out of the 3 gods they're playing, which helps you hyper-focus on specific gods to ban and to not ban. For example, if they were to go 2 warriors, then you can assume that their third is going to be a mage most likely, and so you can ban accordingly by banning mages. But in terms of specific gods to ban, I would suggest prioritizing Amuzin-Kab, Al-Quang, Atlas, Achilles, Sobek, and Najah. Outside of those, some other good bans are Baron Samedi, Guan Yu, Sol, Scylla, and Horus. But yeah, that's pretty much the overview of how bans work, the mentality when banning, and some general examples of gods to ban in each game mode. Let me know what other questions you may have, or if there's anything else I can go over. Other than that, thank you guys for watching.